It's time to unwind with Country Bear Story Time.
and and I was caught up with the enthusiasm of the announcer. His name was Bert Wilson. You know, it's a beautiful day here at Wrigley Field. And of course, at that time, the Cubs had horrible teams, and in the early '50s. None of them were any good. They tried hard.
Where were you and your family living at that time?
Well, I was living at that time. I was living in Rome City, Indiana.
Okay.
But
What were you saying about Ronald Reagan?
okay, Ronald Reagan, I think, was getting established in the movies by that time. Of course, Ronald Reagan got his start as a sportscaster out of Des Moines, Iowa. And he would visit Bert Wilson in Chicago. And Bert would say, "Come on in here, Dutch, and do the bottom half of the fourth inning for me." And Ronald Reagan said, "Thank you very much, Bert." The way Ronald Reagan talked, and he would do that. Of course, he was a professional sportscaster, baseball caster especially. But P.K. Wrigley didn't spend a lot of money. He was a chewing gum magnate, rich dude. But I don't think he saw any problem. He saw the Cubs as just kind of a business, had a beautiful ballpark, had pretty good attendance for a really lousy team. And today, an owner like that would probably be assassinated.
So he just counted on the loyalty of Cubs fans, basically.
Yeah, Bert Wilson was always selling the ballpark. It's a beautiful day here at beautiful Wrigley Field, he largely sold the atmosphere, right?
Okay.
I wanted to get around later when I in the fourth grade and part of the fifth grade. I went to Hammond Wallace, an elementary school in downtown Hammond, Indiana. And I went to Wallace when we first started at Wallace. My whole family lived in a one-room basement apartment, and we shared a bathroom with other people.
Wow.
Right after the Second World War, in the cities, there were an incredible housing shortage. Now, if you lived...
what year was this?
Oh, we're talking 1950, 51, thereabouts.
Tell me all of your family members that were living together in this one room.
Oh, I think there were 5 of us living in a one-room basement apartment.
So your mom, your dad,
and 2 of my brothers. And
which brothers would that have been?
That would have been Kenny and Clyde. Okay. These are horrible accommodations. And the folks bought, I think it was a 1948 model. I think it was only 26 feet long. A house trailer. It wasn't a mobile home. It was a house trailer back then. The house trailers were made to be moved. And we moved into a small trailer park in downtown Hammond, Indiana. It was on State Street in Hammond, Indiana. Is exactly where it was.
Okay.
And one of maybe the main drag of Hammond, Indiana, really, was the State Street.
How long did you guys live in the one-room basement apartment before you got the house?
Oh, probably a month or 2, or less. Thank God. But
yeah.
Thank God. Living below ground and sharing a bathroom, and so we bought this house trailer. It was in like new condition, beautiful. I think it had bird's eye maple. I remember it was small but beautiful. Lived right across the alley from the bathhouse, so you could go to the bathroom, you could go take a shower or whatever. So in good weather, it was very convenient. And we didn't have hot water. I remember. We just had running water in the kitchen, but didn't have hot water. We had a gas stove that was bottled gas for the gas stove, and we used fuel oil in the winter for heat. But the thing I liked about living in Hammond, Indiana, I went to the movies 3-4 times a week. My brother and I both went to the movies a lot. I could go to the Calumet and the Orpheum. The Orpheum was just down the street, about a half block down the street. I could go down the Orpheum. I think it was either 12 or 14 cents, and watched a lot of Bowery Boy movies, Bud Abbott, Lou Costello movies there. And they had another inexpensive theater. It was 2 or 3 blocks away. It was at Calumet. The movies are a little more up to date there, but they were definitely, second, third, fourth run movies. I also went to the Paramount. We go to the Paramount. It was air conditioned, and it had more recent. They didn't have first run movies there, and it was a quarter, I believe. And then the Parthenon was a new theater. It was beautiful there in Hammond, Indiana. It had, pretty close to first run movies, and it was beautiful. The Paramount was air conditioned too. I don't believe neither the Orpheum or the Calumet theaters were air conditioned. But and I also went to the wrestling matches. It's just about a half a block. It was close to the Orpheum Theater. Had a wrestling arena. I sometimes go to the wrestling matches once a week.
Would you go with Uncle Kenny?
No, I don't. He had other friends. I think most of the time I didn't go to the movies with him.
Okay. Now, did you go by yourself, or did you
Mostly. People didn't bother children back then. And, of course, I lived on State Street, Hammond, Indiana. And I told you, a couple blocks down, you stay on State Street, and you go into Calumet City, Illinois, which was Sin City, USA at that time. You go by the burlesque theaters, and you see pictures on the outside of scantily clad females and whatever, right? But when it was always in the daytime. It was But as I say, kids wondered about. Very rarely did anybody bother children, back then.
So, about how old do you think you were when you lived in Hammond, Indiana?
10 or 11.
Okay.
I think I started, since I was a first grade dropout, I didn't start first grade. So I think I was 10 in the 4th grade. And, I finished up the 4th grade there in the 5th grade before we moved to Jackson, South Carolina. But getting back to Hammond, I think I enjoyed living there as much as I did any place, because I could go to movies all the time. My dad we took the Chicago Tribune. My dad would read the Chicago Tribune. He'd read the front page. I'd read the sports page. He'd read the front page before he'd go to work, and he'd sometimes finish up reading the paper when he got home. And I'd read the sports pages, and that's what I was interested in. And so one of the highlights of living there, my brother-in-law, Ralph Wagner, and my sister Dorothy would come over about once a month from Gary, Indiana. Ralph was going to Coin Radio and Refrigeration School in Chicago. And they were living in Gary at that time. It was a small house. And he would buy a whole bunch of White Castle. About a half a block down the alley was a White Castle hamburger place. And he'd buy hamburgers were, I believe, 12 cents a piece. And he'd buy a couple dozen hamburgers for everybody. And your Uncle Kenny and I loved those White Castle hamburgers back then. And it was a fun place for a kid to live, actually. Moving into this beautiful little house trailer, living above ground was a really plus,
Yes.
My dad and your Uncle Earl, my oldest brother Earl, they worked electrical construction. If you were in a small town, you could get a regular sized house for not much, But if you went to the cities where a lot of jobs were, and then around Hammond, there was a lot of jobs around Hammond, East Chicago, Indiana, Gary, the steel mills. There's a lot of people, a lot of jobs, And so I really enjoyed living there in a downtown trailer park, because, like I say, the accommodations were small but beautiful, right?
Had you told me before that there was a swimming pool there also?
No, there wasn't any swimming pools there.
Oh, okay.
I never went swimming at all. That was when I lived there.
So how long did you guys live there?
I started out the fourth grade in Rome City, Indiana, and then we moved to Hammond. Went to another school, Hammond Edison, before I went to Hammond Wallace. But I liked Wallace a lot better than I did Edison.
Mm.
And it was only Wallace was only a block or two from where we lived. And like I say, I really enjoyed it. Had a morning paper and went to movies 3 or 4 times a week, wrestling matches.
So you went to 3 different schools in 4th grade, is that right?
I believe so. I started off in Rome City, Indiana. I love Rome City, but I don't want to talk about Rome City right now. But we'll talk about Rome City another time.
And so you went to three different schools in 4th grade. Now,
And I believe, well, actually, in the 4th grade, I went to 3 different schools.
now did you stay there in Hammond, Indiana?
Okay, about 2/3 of the way through the 5th grade, we stayed there. We were there probably 2 or 3 months in the 4th grade. I loved it there, you know, the short time we were there. Maybe 3, 4 months actually, because I loved it there. And then we moved to Jackson, South Carolina.
When you were in 5th grade. Okay.
The 5th grade, huh? And I only went to 2 schools in the 5th grade. So I think maybe we end it right here, right?
Okay.